National anthem of the United States of America.
The 2017 Olympia Finals is about to get underway. Dan Solomon joined now by the Hall of Famer Sean Ray. We're going to go ahead and first hear from the CEO of American Media, of course, the entity that owns the Mr. Olympia contest. Let's hear from Dave.
This year marks a major milestone for me. It has been 15 years since I began working with Joe and Ben Weider and what has become the Super Bowl of bodybuilding. During this time, we increased the prize money by 150% to over $1.3 million. The number of exhibitors by 125% to 1,150, and the attendance by 400% to over 60,000 and counting. Thank you. Therefore, I am very happy to tell you that this month, American Media became the sole owner of Mr. Olympia, purchasing the remaining 50% ownership from the Weider family. I want to personally thank Eric Weider, Jim Mannion, and Robin Chang for helping me with this transaction. I look forward to continue working with all of you as we move into the future. The last 90 days have been quite exciting for American Media. Besides acquiring all of Mr. Olympia and the Fitness and Performance Expo, we purchased Us Weekly, the largest celebrity magazine in the United States, for $100 million. For those of you unfamiliar with this brand, it reaches over 44 million men and women across the magazine website and social media platforms. We also acquired Men's Journal magazine and decided to merge it with Men's Fitness, beginning with the November issue. This will create the second largest men's lifestyle and fitness magazine in the industry, with circulation growing from 700,000 to 1.3 million, a 66% increase. Our digital audience of 15 million will be 30% greater than our nearest competitor. Finally, I'm excited to announce my presidential appointment as a senior member of the President's Council on Fitness, Sports, and Nutrition. Our purpose is to engage, educate, and empower all Americans to adopt a healthy lifestyle that includes regular physical activity and good nutrition. It is important to know that the Council's message is about people, not politics. That's why I hope you will all join me in spreading this message throughout your communities and help us build a stronger, healthier America. All of these acquisitions and strategies, Mr. Olympia, Us Weekly, Men's Journal, and the President's Council, will impact everyone here tonight because they provide distribution platforms to expand the sport of bodybuilding, health, fitness, and nutrition. They are part of my commitment to be your voice to the entire world. Now, let's look at what this year's Olympia has in store for you. For the 10th straight year, we increased the prize money. Most important, this year's increase gives the women's division parity with their counterparts on the men's side. And I'm proud to say it's about time. This year, we're hosting our first ever amateur competition at Olympia for bodybuilding, men's physique, classic physique, and bikini. This gives all our amateur athletes the opportunity to earn IFBB pro status. At tonight's main event, Phil Heath will go for his 7th Olympia title, attempting to match the legendary Arnold Schwarzenegger's record. I think he's going to be up against the toughest competition he's faced since he first won the title. I'd also like to congratulate all the winners from last night's event. Figure, Sidney Gilliam. Fitness, Oksana Grishana. And classic physique, Brianna Ansley. Let's all give them a great round of applause. Finally, for anyone who doesn't believe bodybuilding is a growing sport, just check out who our sole sponsor is this year. And once again, Amazon is live streaming Olympia to millions and millions of fans around the world, with international hosts providing commentary. We also have a very special guest here with us tonight. I think many of you may have heard of him. When he joins me on stage later this evening, DJ will tell you about a documentary he is producing on this year's Olympia. We have another special guest in the audience tonight. Thanks to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, 19-year-old Anthony, along with his mother and sister, are here this evening. Anthony is a huge fan of our sport, and we are very proud to welcome Anthony and his family as our guest this evening. Let's give Anthony a big round of applause. Before I close, I want to thank Jim Mannion and Robin Chang for producing another outstanding event. I also want everyone here to join me in a special thank you for the 800 members of the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines who are here with us tonight. These extraordinary, brave men and women risk their lives, not just protecting our country, but also being first responders to major disasters like Hurricanes Harvey and Irma. God bless you all. Bob, let's get the show started.
All right, there it is,
we do in Las Vegas? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, bodybuilding fans from around the world, welcome to the 2017 Olympia. Before we get going, folks, I'd like to give a special thanks to AMI, our Chairman, President, and CEO, Mr. David Pecker. Also our President of the IFBB Pro League, Mr. Jim Mannion. And I'd like to welcome all of our fans from around the world joining us via Amazon Sports Nutrition for our live webcast, as we get a chance to show what we do to everybody and all the fans around the world. Folks, we've got a great show lined up for you here tonight. We're going to get right to it. Phil Heath looking for number 7 right here on this stage. Can he make history? And can he match the great Arnold Schwarzenegger? For those that were at the prejudging, you saw the challenge. William Bonac coming on the stage, big and bold, putting his foot forward. Big Rami the Beast from the East, hot on his tail. And the rest of the great Olympians you're about to see. Folks, we've nailed it down to our top 10 for tonight. Our top 10 are in the back and ready. The judges seated and in place. Fans here at the Olympia, are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
All right, this time, just the sexy people. Fans here at the Olympia, are you ready? Please welcome your first competitor from Curacao, the Beast, Rudy Winkler.
Top 10 begins now.
All right, our 2017 Olympia Finals is now underway as Rudy Winkler, by way of Curacao, makes his way to the stage. He's had a fairly quiet year after a busy one a year ago where he competed 8 times, and Rudy, of course, showcases some of those historically spectacular arms, and he's really done a great job of becoming a real big star here in Las Vegas, Sean, each year come Olympia time.
Well, Dan, like I said from a day ago, 24 hours later, we can be looking at a totally different bodybuilder, which at first blush, that's exactly what I see. I see a Rudy Winkler that's a little bit closer to where he should have been yesterday, so he did definitely make up ground. The arms actually looked like they grew, but in that comment, you actually see the separation in the hamstrings and the calves that were kind of missing a little bit yesterday, and you got to wonder, Dan, whether or not it's enough to make up for the slow start a day ago.
Well, there's a lot of spots in that top 6 that are, up for grabs, and I know Rudy wants to grab one of those. He's never managed to finish in the top 6. He's been 7th here. In fact, before the show, we caught up with Jay Cutler, and if you recall, there was that one year where Rudy finished 7th, Jay finished 6th. It was Jay Cutler's final competition. Jay Cutler just admitted to me a few minutes ago that he actually would have put Rudy ahead of him, and he thought that he probably unfairly got the nod.
Well, and Jay was mad at me because I said the exact same thing, but I said it in the heat of the moment, and now hindsight is 2020. Rolly had a shot, but that we're talking a long time ago. Rolly's been at it ever since then, trying to get back in there and make a name for himself. He's probably right where he was then. He's fighting to be relevant in that 6th, 7th spot. And the hamstrings are coming in, the glutes are coming in, the calves are coming in, but you got to wonder, again, it's a lot of ground to make up.
one of the real challenges for a guy like Ruli Winkler is we are now in an era where the top guys are named Phil Heath and Dexter Jackson and Sean Roden. They are of the more aesthetic variety. And when a guy like Ruli Winkler shows up, now granted, Big Ramy, and we're going to talk about him later, he's managed to pull it off, but he's got a better flow, a different type of structure. With Ruli, it's really hard for him to compare with guys like Heath and the other more aesthetically guys.
He's not a genetic freak. He's got body parts, and when thrown together, you can see there's a little bit of blockiness in the way the thighs are shaped. He's got those massive arms that overpower the majority of his physique. It doesn't flow on an aesthetic basis, but Ruli by himself is a freak, and when he picks the right show, he wins. That's how he got here.
Well, we're going to get our first look
finalist from the United Kingdom. Please welcome Nathan D'Asha.
Okay, so what they're doing now, just to be clear, we are watching only the top 10 finalists perform their routines. I guess in the sake of time, they have to limit it. So we're not going to get a chance to see. I was expecting we were going to get to see Johnny Jackson compete for the final time, but Johnny Jackson will not get the pose. We'll see him in a few minutes. But Nathan D'Asha, one of the rising stars in the world of professional bodybuilding, competing in the Olympia for the second time. He was 12th here a year ago, a former British champion. And Sean Ray, a lot of people really like what they're seeing from Nathan D'Asha.
Yeah, he's got a lot of potential, and it's a diamond in the rough. The lats are a little bit high, the waist is a little bit long. Again, this is his second Olympia, so there's a lot of things that he's going to have to learn along the way, and we're going to see those weaknesses here on the biggest stage. But again, he's a guy that when he picks the right show, he winds up in that victory circle. And right now, this is a contest where I talked to him after prejudging yesterday that he is just ecstatic because no matter what happens here, he's done better than he did a year ago.
When you look at his ability, though, to get into shape, and you look at it, when you consider his age, he's still relatively young, and the way he's put together, this is a guy, if he can fill out that frame, put on some, he's got a lot of room to grow there, and you can see why people are really excited about what he can be in the coming years.
Which is the amazing part of bodybuilding, because it's always these ifs and when. There's so many other external factors getting ready for a show this big that take place throughout the year. I mean, life takes place. You got kids, you got jobs, you got sicknesses, you've got travel, and all these things, and then you turn around and you got to put it on display and hope that it's better than a year ago. And right now, Nathan D'Asha has everything to be proud of in terms of coming back here and representing improvement from here.
He's got no shortage of biceps. He's got plenty of shoulders, and he's got a nice thick quad sweep. And really, this is a guy who I think come 2018 is going to collect a whole bunch of titles on the circuit. Maybe not ready yet to contend for shows like the Arnold Classic or the Olympia, but it's not that far down the road for him.
Let's be honest, in about 3 years, we probably won't see Phil Heath, probably won't see Dexter Jackson or even Sean Roden. He'll move up by default because those genetic freaks will be out of the way, but there'll be some others coming up behind him, and Nathan will move up by default, not to mention that 3 years from now, if he continues on the road that he's on, he'll be that much more improved, and he'll be very dangerous a couple of years down the road. But moving up into the top 10 has got to be a very satisfying, rewarding feeling because he did have to do a little bit of traveling. He is the #1 British bodybuilder, if you discount James Flex Lewis, who's from Wales. This guy right now is representing the UK very well.
Well, it's been fun watching the cultural component of this weekend. There are elite world-class athletes representing 25 countries or so over the course of the weekend. So it's a real international showcase here in Las Vegas.
Please welcome from the USA, Flexitron Sean Roden.
Well, here he is, your 2009 North American champ. That was a long time ago, but 5 years in a row now, he's been a top 4 finisher here at the Mr. Olympia contest. He has become one of the best, one of the more consistent bodybuilders in the world. Coming into this show, a lot of people thought he had a legitimate chance to contend, considering only a year ago he was the runner-up here.
Yeah, and I said a year ago he was one of the more quiet first runner-ups. Not a lot of fuss was being made about the fact that Sean Roden had taken out Dexter Jackson, Big Ramy, and the likes. This is the former Arnold Classic Europe champion. Sean didn't just fall into first place. He's been a work in progress. But right here this weekend, he's taken a couple of steps backwards. I have to probably attribute some of that to the stresses of the business of bodybuilding in terms of competing, traveling, and then also putting on some extra weight.
On the positive side, though, this guy's physique just flows beautifully, and that's what's earned him these top spots for the last few years. This is a guy who presents his physique in a very artistic way, and what we're going to do now is we're going to sit back and let you watch the posing routine of last year's Olympia runner-up Sean Roden. Sean, when you watch a guy like Sean Roden compete, or pose rather, you can't help but think back to your style. You had a very artistic style, the way you would present the transitions on stage, very reminiscent of the way you would do it. I don't know if he's quite mastered it quite the way you had, but there's certainly a lot to be said about the overall general flavor and approach of how he is how he's doing this. But I got to be honest with you, we're seeing some things right now that I don't know that I've seen on a bodybuilder.
Well, I did. Kai Green is one of those guys that he's a performer, and Sean's trying a few things that are a little bit different and uncharacteristic. Every one of us, Dan, on that stage have bitten off other people that have been there before us. I mean, I know I copied John Brown. I stole some moves from Chris Dickerson, and of course I combined some things from Labrada and Bob Harris back in the day. Sean is taking a lot of liberties to use the guys that came before him. Very slow, mellow person, and he poses the same way.
And he's made some improvements. He talked about wanting to improve the hamstrings and the glutes. He's done that. It's really the upper back density and the detail. That's the area that he's needed to improve to kind of take that next step. And the question is, has he done that?
Well, it's not just the back. You need the triceps are very slight, and the thighs at times are very soft and smooth. There's a few things. He relaxes his stomach a little bit more than I'd like him to see on this stage. This is where you got to stay in very strong control and keep it tight at all times. I'm not so sure I like him a little bit heavy. I prefer him to be a little bit more sucked up. The stomach would be a little bit more better to be controlled, and of course the thighs would stay separated throughout the routine. But I got to give it to him that he did dry up from a day of go. And again, when you pose like this, it makes your muscles more controlled and helps them get more separated, so that by drying out and rehydrating just a little bit, you can show those improvements in just a matter of 24 hours.
He's been top 5 in the world, or top 4 in the world 5 years in a row, and the question is he going to be able to continue that tonight? We're going to find that out when we reach the end of the night. But you just got to really, it's being as good for as long as he has is one of the hardest things to do, and you just got to tip your cap to what Sean Roden has been able to bring at this level year in and year out.
Please welcome your next competitor from Down Under, the King of the Gym, Josh Lenardowitz.
All right, the pride of Australia is going to walk onto the stage right now. From the emerge from the smoke is Josh Lenardowitz. He has 3 pro wins already to his credit. He won just a month ago in Tampa, Florida, and then after that happened, one of the more impossibly tragic scenarios played out in the life of Josh Lenardowitz when he lost his roommate, his dear friend, who also happened to be one of the best bodybuilders in the world, Dallas McCarver. And Sean Ray, this has been an extraordinary set of circumstances for Josh. It's remarkable that he's even here, but I know he has made it a point to make everyone know that he's dedicating everything that he's doing here at the Olympia to his fallen friend.
Yeah, and what he has left in the tank, he's bringing to the stage. It's not enough to be competitive like he would like to be, because he's been better. But under the circumstances, respectable. He's still cracked into the top 10. That's a reward in and of itself. He's a lot softer than he was in Tampa, Florida. We've seen him better. But even when he's off, he's one of the top 10 physiques in the world, which tells you a little bit about this guy's potential, especially when he's 100% mentally focused, along with being physically prepared.
In spite of everything he's gone through, when you look at this guy's proportions, his structure, you could see why this guy has superstar written all over him. He's got a great look, great stage presence. He's extremely popular, not just in Australia, but throughout the entire world.
Absolutely. And you know what? In spite of the soft, thin layer of water that's conjugated around the hamstrings and the glutes and the back, You can clearly see that the muscle is underneath there. He's got to be in much better condition on a show of this caliber, but the shape is there. Of course, the knock on Josh is the chest. There's a little bit of a genetic disposition there with his chest being a little bit more separated than some of the genetic freaks are. This is a physique in the right show that can take out some very good bodybuilders. And a year ago, this guy competed in a lot of contests, so I'm very surprised that he's able to show up here and look as good as he does.
Give it up for Josh Lenonowitz.
Well, you know, the storyline of Dallas McCarver continues to sort of cast a cloud over this weekend, and we're going to talk more about that as our production goes on, because it's a terrible situation. A 26-year-old bodybuilder with his whole life ahead of him and a really promising career.
Well, he had this guy on the ropes back in March, and if you were there to witness that contest, you saw that Cedric McMillan was in for a dogfight from Dallas McCarver, so he'll not soon be forgotten, Dallas. He left his footprint here in this industry. I know that Cedric and him clowned around and had some good times, and here's Cedric trying to represent. This is the guy, Dan, that Arnold Schwarzenegger was saying that if we were looking for an ideal physique that embodies what a bodybuilder should look like, perform like, and even behave like, Cedric McMillan fit the bill as far as Arnold Schwarzenegger was concerned. Slightly off here tonight, may not be in that top 6, but this is a guy you cannot ignore when he's in shape.
Well, he was good enough to win the Arnold Classic earlier this year. This is only his 3rd Olympia. His previous finish is 7th and 12th, and a lot of us have been waiting for him to deliver something spectacular here in Las Vegas. We know what his physique is capable of being. The question is, can he put that together here on bodybuilding's biggest stage? But let's sit back and watch Cedric's routine, because Cedric has quickly become one of the more popular guys in the sport, somebody who we really enjoy covering, and somebody who has a whole lot of fun and also keeps great perspective about all of this. So let's watch Cedric. Some of the concerns of Cedric are the ability to really dial in that conditioning. And his structure is so blessed and so exceptional that when he's able to even get close, he can win any show he enters. He's that good. His structure is that good. The overall flow of the physique is outstanding, and he's able to present it as well. It's simply a matter of him coming in just hard enough to make all of that flow and present the way it needs to. And the question is, has he done that tonight?
No, not tonight, but again, it's one of those things where he's like a Lamborghini. When you see one, you stop and look, whether it's clean and polished or whether it's dirty, it's still a Lamborghini. And all Cedric needs is that wax. He needs that polish on this day. And this is one of those shows that he just doesn't necessarily get the right shine on his physique. But we can't ignore the glimpses of possibilities. I mean, this guy on this stage, if he did it all in one night, he could take out a guy like Phil Heath. He could beat a Big Ramy and a William Bonac, because he's just a genetically blessed bodybuilder. We've seen lots of bodybuilders, Dan, Matt Mendenhall, Roy Littlemeyer back in the day. They were blessed with the great genetics, but could never dial it in on the big stage. Cedric may still have some time to do that, but it won't happen here this weekend. Those traps are just ridiculously large.
And it almost seems ridiculous to even criticize anything about this physique, because this physique is the embodiment of what bodybuilding should be about, is all about. He just comes along at a time, like we spoke of earlier, where guys like Phil and Dexter and this weekend Big Ramy, other guys who have learned how to master that art of really getting razor sharp and dialed in. That's something that has continued to plague Cedric, but there is no question in my mind that this is one of the more enjoyable bodybuilders to cover. And we're going to go ahead and take a quick break, and we're going to continue our coverage here from Las Vegas of Joe Weider's 2017 Olympia weekend.
like to use is the ISO 100 after my workout. ISO 100 is one of the, I think, the highest ranked.
All athletes across the globe to get to the IFBB Pro League.
All right, we're back for our ongoing and very exclusive coverage here from the Orleans Arena in Las Vegas. You're watching Amazon Sports Nutrition's presentation of Joe Weider's Olympia Fitness and Performance Weekend. And one of the more anticipated moments of the night is our chance to get a look at Mamdou Al-Baye. They call him Big Ramy, and he is big indeed. And Sean Ray, he has come here to Las Vegas this year, and let's not mince words, he means business.
Absolutely. We saw this guy last time winning out in Kuwait, effectively vanquishing one of the greatest bodybuilders in Dexter Jackson, who's got an Olympia and 9 arnoplastic titles, and Sean Roden, who was last year's first runner-up. So we saw this man coming a year ago, and now it looks like he's arrived. As far as I'm concerned, it's the best he's been on this Olympia stage, and he's going to be looking for his just desserts by the time this night is over.
Certainly no design, Sean, no denying, as you just mentioned, this is the best version of Big Ramy we have ever seen. When you start talking about the comparison between Phil Heath, it's going to open up a whole whirlwind of controversy when this event is over, regardless of who wins. If it goes to Phil, if it goes to Ramy, this is your classic apples versus oranges comparison. These two guys have very little in common in terms of their physiques, but they both brought it this year. But the question is, who's got the goods to kind of get it over the top? Because some people feel that Phil Heath may have left that door cracked a little bit open.
He certainly did, and of course from the back, Phil Heath closes that door, and he will be focusing on those back shots, because from the front, Big Ramy is undeniably B-I-G big, and I know all too often the comparison, Dan, of apples and oranges. This is going to come down to what the judges decide to do with the direction of professional bodybuilding, as Ramy's got a very strong case to walk off with a Sandow trophy, and I don't think you're going to hear a lot of boos if that should happen. Right now, let's enjoy this beast of a man from the East. Good Lord. The delts, the quads, the small waist, the abs, the pecs. I mean, Ramy has done his business, and not to be outdone, he was working with legendary trainer Big Chris Cormier, who's graced this stage many times, as high as 3rd place back in 1999. Chris Cormier came into the camp through Bader Budai and Oxygen Gym and the Camel Crew. So Big Ramy right now is starting to feel a little bit more confidence as he hears the remarks from last night.
And you're seeing, and they love him here in the U.S., they love him in Vegas, and this is the guy who has started to develop that swagger. He showed up here a couple of years ago, was a little timid. It wasn't the same guy that you're seeing tonight. He's here to take this title. He feels like he's done the work. He feels like he's got the structure, the package, the overall look to bring home a Sandow trophy, to bring a Sandow trophy back to Oxygen Gym all the way over in Kuwait. It would be an historic achievement if he were able to pull it off. And based on the crowd response, I think there's a few people in this building that might think that it's the outcome that could play out.
Yeah, and the last time they had a Sandow trophy anywhere in the vicinity of Kuwait, it was the Lion from Lebanon, Samir Banu, in 1983. And that Sandow trophy has traveled around the world. Of course, Arnold Schwarzenegger representing Austria, Sergio Oliva, Cuba, Franco Colombo, Italy, Dorian Yates from England. This would be a big feather in his cap if he could take this trophy back to Kuwait.
Your next finalist from the USA, Brandon Curry.
Well, you're looking really at one of bodybuilding's hottest properties, and it's kind of fallen a little bit under the radar when we start talking about all these other big names. But Brandon Curry's competed twice this year. He won both times, including the Arnold Classic, Australia. He then, a while back, headed over to the aforementioned Oxygen Gym over in Kuwait, and he started training with those guys out there. And to some degree, his entire career, his entire approach to this sport has been reinvented. His momentum is off the charts, and he comes in here to Las Vegas as a guy with a legitimate chance to secure a spot in the top 5.
Dan, they call this guy the prodigy. He won the overall USA Championships. What's more amazing is that he's done it raising 4 kids with an IFBB Pro bikini wife. in Brandy Lever. I can't say enough for the sacrifice this guy makes for his family and the ability to have the freedom from his wife to do what his passion is. And now they're starting seeing the fruits of his labor, taking 2 and 3 months away from the family to do the business of bodybuilding and to show up in this kind of condition with 2 victories in 1 year. It's a stellar performance that Brandon Curry right now is up here with the top 10 guys, because a year ago we wouldn't have been talking about this. He made a sacrifice and a commitment, and now we're starting to see the rewards. Brandon's always been slightly top heavy. The wide shoulders, the big arms don't always match up with the legs, which have been slight, but he's brought the legs up and he's been rewarded for that. But of course he can always use a little bit more on the lower half. This guy's 252 pounds at all of 5'6", 5'7", and still there's room for improvement.
Brandon Curry came up out of the NPC back when there were superstars in the NPC, back when guys would kick around for a while and they would finally break through and win it. Brandon Curry came out of the gates as a pro with all sorts of hype and all sorts of momentum because, quite frankly, it was his overall structure. They really feel, the experts really feel that this is a guy who's got the goods, or at least had the goods early on, and for a while there he started to lose some steam. We were questioning whether or not it was going to play out, and it took a little while, and he seems to have figured it out.
I mean, they were trying to figure out the formula, and it just wasn't right in terms of what weight he should be competing at. I actually thought for a minute he was going to drop down to the 212-pound division. I think he made the right decision to allow his body to grow, to respond to the weight resistance, to get in the right camp that had his best interest at heart. Vader Budai and the Oxygen Gym and the Camel Crew people have done wonders with directing Brandon's physique in the right direction. And right now he's starting, like Rami, to feel the confidence of the work that he's put in when no one else was looking. Showing up here in his absolute best in terms of on the Olympia stage, you cannot deny that Brandon Curry is one of the top 10 physiques on the planet today.
Give it up for the prodigy, Brandon Curry.
All right, Sean, we're getting a look at a lot of these guys right now, and you just can really appreciate the overall quality in this year's lineup. Now, I don't know that there's a lot of guys who have hit their career best marks. Brandon looked great. Rami probably is the best he's ever been. But across the board, we're trying to figure out who really brought it at the highest level, because we often say when an Olympia is over, which one of the guys really showed their all-time best? And with the exception of Rami, I'm not sure we got a lot of all-time bests this weekend.
No, but this guy right here, for him, I would venture to say that his coach, Neil Hill, and him, William Bonek from the Netherlands, feel like they brought their absolute best. And again, I said last year, if this guy ate a potato, he'd be spilling over because there's no more room to put any more muscle on. But somehow or another, this guy has found a way to come in a little bit bigger and a little bit better.
Yeah, right.
Williams got confidence, Dan. He's actually beaten Sean Roden. He's actually beaten Big Rami. So he is not afraid to get up here and show his best against the world's best.
He was the story of last year's Olympia, and he now has 6 professional wins to his credit. But when he landed in the top 5 here a year ago, no one saw it coming. But this year in 2017, he's no longer going to sneak up on anybody.
No, you can't put another inch on those arms. He's about maxed out in terms of weight. The only thing that I think this guy could use is a little bit more condition. I think he looked a little bit drier and a little bit tighter last night. But again, it's relative to who you're standing next to. And we haven't seen all the main players yet. We still got Dexter to come. We still got Phil Heath to come. But right now, William Bonek is here, and he's arrived.
You know, it's great because we're starting to see the emergence of guys that really weren't on that top-tier radar a couple years ago. And it's important because, as you've mentioned many times, Sean, a lot of the best bodybuilders aren't in the world. They're starting to get to that point where how much longer can they really do this? So when you see a guy like Brandon Curry come in, and Big Ramy, and some of the others, Cedric even to some extent. Cedric is not young, but he still looks like a guy who's going to be around for a while because he's got good quality muscle, and he's a guy who doesn't show any signs of slowing down. But it's really important for this sport for guys like Brandon and William Bonac to come in to the Olympia and to do it on this stage and to do it at a high level, because not everybody can do it when the lights are shining the brightest.
Absolutely. And while I think William has improved, he still just needs to open up a little bit big. I remember Arnold telling Franco, you've got to pose bigger than you are because you're a little guy. You have little limbs. You've got to pose big. And I'd like to see William open up a little bit more. He likes to do the most muscular shots to show off the muscularity. But when he opens up into some of those poses to show a little bit more of the classical look, he's got to think big, think wide, and show off his physique a little bit more, because he does tend to look a little bit smaller when he's not all the way opened up in poses.
Everybody brings a different style. Everyone brings a different flavor to their posing routines, and William Bonac is starting to get this crowd going. But it's really important because a lot of folks like the classic physique, but we're trying to entertain. We're trying to get these people going, and we're trying to create some real entertainment value. So that's the cool part about the Olympia, is that you see every type of style over the course of these routines. But I do, before we bring out the next guy.
Your next competitor from the USA, former Mr. Olympia,
we'll talk about
the Blade, Dexter Jackson.
Well, here he is. I mean, this is the most decorated bodybuilder in the history of the sport. He has been victorious 28 times, the winningest bodybuilder of all time. They call him the Blade, Dexter Jackson. And as Bob Ciccarella mentioned, he is the former Mr. Olympia champion. Amazingly enough, it was 9 years ago that he was crowned Mr. Olympia on this stage. And here we are 9 years later, and he is once again back in the mix, back in the top 5, contending for another title.
Mr. Consistency. I mean, the thing about Dexter, he doesn't take a whole lot of time off. His weight doesn't fluctuate very much. He doesn't make huge improvements, but he just plods along. You just see him consistently doing the business, and he takes his time. He does it right, never been injured. Doesn't try to change too much from one year to the next, and I think that's where the longevity factor comes in and the lack of injury comes in. He knows his body.
We're looking at a bodybuilder who will turn 48 years old in November. And there is nothing remotely 48-year-old looking about that physique. He is dry, he is grainy, he has that classic Blade-esque separation. He's going to turn around to the back, and you're going to see everything that helped make him Mr. Olympia and knock off Jay Cutler 9 years ago. And it's one of the more extraordinary stories that Dexter Jackson is back, not just doing it, but doing it at this level.
Absolutely. And let's be mindful, it is a different lineup that Dexter is competing against compared to when he beat Jay Cutler. He had different people competing back in those days, and now he's got to come up and contend with a guy like William Bonac, who wasn't even, I don't know if he was even a pro back when Dexter Jackson won the Mr. Olympia championships. And as good as Dexter is, again, there are areas that he can improve in. Like he can bring up the calves, he can get the thighs a little more separated, and again, he can be a little bit tighter in the midsection. He's known as the Blade, and that comes from his razor sharp conditioning. It's a little bit off here tonight, but we cannot discount that on any given day he can beat all of these guys. He's beaten Phil Heath before, he's beaten Big Ramy. This show is not over by a long shot in terms of what Dexter believes he's capable of.
Typically for normal human beings, they reach this age as bodybuilders, their physique start to do certain things. They start to get that up and down look in the lower half of the body. The body starts to look mature in a way that isn't always a positive thing. Dexter comes out, and while we might criticize that his conditioning isn't quite where it has been before, there's nothing about this physique that looks even remotely old. No. And that's the extraordinary part about this. And as he hits that classic Dexter Jackson front double bicep, these fans, they can appreciate what they're watching. They are watching one of the greatest bodybuilders to ever live.
And typically, Dan, we see bodybuilders age on stage, and we can't really even talk about age. Dexter is Dexter. There's very few people like him. And forget bodybuilding. In any sport, there's nobody like Dexter Jackson doing what he does. In boxing, the guys slow down, the reflexes kind of diminish, and they take more punches. Dexter is right there in the mix with these guys. If we didn't know how old they were, Dexter Jackson's still a top 6 guy. Strong too. Yeah. Lifting the kind of weights that Dexter lifts, for a 48-year-old guy, it's very impressive.
There he is, one of the greatest.
Dexter Jackson.
One of the greatest of all time, and you can be sure that these fans appreciate and understand what they just witnessed in the nearly 48-year-old former Mr. Olympia.
Your final competitor is your 6-time reigning and defending Olympia champion, The Gift, Phil Heath.
All right, Dan Solomon along with Sean Ray, and we are watching the #1 bodybuilder on the planet. Phil Heath, a 6-time Mr. Olympia champion, makes his way to the stage for the first time tonight. He debuted all the way back in 2006. And since then, he has gone on to have an extraordinary career. Tonight, he looks for Olympia win number 7. And Sean Ray, if he is able to do that, we will have to say, move over Arnold Schwarzenegger. You've got company.
Absolutely. This is the guy that's won over in India. He's won the Arnold Classic over in Europe. And he's won here 6 times. And this is what he does. He wins, wins, and wins.
That 3-dimension, that thickness, that separation, those remarkable lines that have made him the best bodybuilder in the world. They are back here tonight in 2017. A lot of folks were wondering coming in, which version of Phil would we see? There's been times where he's trying to play the size game to some extent. Then there's been times where he's gone all in on conditioning. He and his trainer, Hani Rambod, they're very smart. They're very good at what they do. They take a very intelligent approach. So I'm going to ask you, Sean Ray, how do you feel about this year's strategy in 2017?
Well, it's clearly working. I mean, this Phil is in the hunt. I mean, this is Phil's show, right? I mean, last night we were talking, he's got to have better control of the midsection. After that, there was nothing else really to talk about in terms of weaknesses. Look at his delts. Look at his arms. His back is ridiculous. I mean, there's not a lot to criticize when you have a genetic freak, a former basketball player. The hamstrings are just hanging off the back of his thighs. His calves are right there with the best of them. I don't know where you pick apart Phil Heath. You may talk about not having control over his stomach throughout his routine, but when you turn around to the rear, we're talking half the body. Look at the hamstrings, the glutes, the crevasses through the traps, and the deltoids. When he stands next to Big Ramy, Ramy's going to have an answer for that. If he doesn't, Phil's walking off with number 7.
Let's make no mistake about it. Coming off prejudging, there were some questions. And he comes into this knowing that he still has some work to do. Because there are people out there might even be people on that judging panel who are questioning whether or not Phil has done enough to take out Big Ramy and the other competitors.
By himself, he's done plenty. So, I mean, at the end of the day, this is Mr. Olympia we're looking at right now. Until he stands next to Ramy for the second round of comparisons, that's where the rubber meets the road, and that's where all the questions will be answered. Because right now, Dan, I'm looking at a 2-man show. William Bonac, as good as he is, I'm not sure he's big enough to take on the beast from the East. But Phil is looking like Mr. Olympia. The question is, how will he look standing next to Ramy 24 hours from yesterday?
There he is, Phil the Gift Heath. He comes to us from Colorado, and he's looking for number 7.
I highly doubt that Phil thinks he's going to lose this title
Folks,
tonight.
every year at the Olympia, we celebrate something special on stage. This next gentleman is calling it a career, and he wanted to end it right here in front of you fans in Las Vegas, right here, center Olympia stage. Please welcome the world's strongest bodybuilder, Johnny O. Jackson.
Well, Sean, I'm really pleased that they're bringing Johnny out because initially I thought he was going to come out earlier. It turns out they're going to put him out right now. He's 46 years old, a former national champion, 16th year as a pro. This is his 13th Mr. Olympia. And as Bob Ciccarello just mentioned, we are going to get what appears to be, based on what Johnny has announced, his final appearance here at the Mr. Olympia.
Well, let's not let it be lost that this is a guy that served his country. He's a military man, got encouraged to become a bodybuilder through his brother, and he's done nothing but compete. He's withstood injury. He trains with one of the other strongest guys out there, Branch Warren, who got first runner-up in this contest and has 2 Arnold Classics to his credit. I watched Johnny Jackson win in various places, all the way over in Germany, South Africa. He's been around for a time or two. You can see the gray in his beard, showing his age just a little bit, but Johnny's physique is still one of those physiques that he looks like he put in a lot of time.
And this will be the final routine that we will see here in the Mr. Olympia portion of the event. Typically, it would end with the defending champion, Phil Heath. They have brought Johnny Jackson out. He is not a top 10 finisher, to give him one final chance to perform for his bodybuilding fans on his final night as a Mr. Olympia competitor. As a programming note, we still have the Bikini Olympia to be staged in a few moments. We also have the Under 212 Olympia Championship coming up as James Flex Lewis looks to win the title once again. But now we're just going to enjoy the final moments of Johnny Jackson's Olympia career.
Dan, as a side note, I want to give a special shout out to Johnny Jackson, husband and a father, contest promoter, lifelong career bodybuilder, one of the better men in our sport, not just as an athlete, but a quality person as well. Gives seminars, and if you've ever seen him train, if you haven't, find him on YouTube. Dan was right. This is one of the world's strongest bodybuilders, right there with Ronnie Coleman, who has 8 Mr. Olympia titles. Johnny Jackson has strongman titles, so there's very few bodybuilders that actually have strongman titles and bodybuilding titles and serve their country and raise children. Congratulations to Johnny as he bids adieu here in Las Vegas.
Give it up for one of the greatest of all time. Come on over, Johnny.
All right, we're back in just a moment after a quick break. You're watching Amazon Sports Nutrition's presentation of Joe Weider's Olympia
Johnny
Weekend.
Jackson, I got a few moments, Johnny. We talked earlier in the year.
All right, we're back here in Las Vegas at the Orleans Arena for Amazon Sports Nutrition's presentation of Joe Weider's Olympia Weekend. I want to welcome everybody who's watching on Amazon Prime Video. Dan Solomon, along with Sean Ray, Carlos Sanchez, will join us in a few moments when we get to the Bikini Olympia. And now, head judge Steve Weinberger is going to step in and take these guys through a series of comparisons. This is where these guys get a chance to be compared, and we'll get a clear sense for what they're thinking. Of course, yesterday, 24 hours ago last night, was the prejudging. They're going to go forward with some confirmation rounds, and they're also going to bring back the guys now who did not make the top 10 and give them a chance to be seen here in Las Vegas.
And it's no surprise, Dan, when it gets to this degree that they knew yesterday they were not going to be in the money. Most of these guys are realistic, but they have fans that fly all over the world to come see them here on this stage, so it's a great honor to actually be recognized, because they may not be the best here, but a lot of these guys are the best in their country, and that says a lot.
From the USA, Michael Watkins. And from the USA, Matt Charles.
And they certainly deserve this opportunity to stand out there. As you said, these guys have worked as hard as anybody in this contest has. So for them to come out there and show the world that they do in fact have Olympia caliber physiques, they certainly deserve their opportunity, and a tip of the cap to all of them. And hopefully next year they can be back here and they can actually make the top 10 and perform their routine.
Hey, and you have some first timers. Gerald Williams, we'll hear him for a long time. Lucas Osladell, we'll hear from him again as well. I told you, it's trademark. Nobody does that better than him.
They always say when you come to Vegas, you see things that you don't see anywhere else.
Thank you, Lucas. Gotta love the glute roll. I think I had somebody at the sushi place the other day. I had a rainbow roll, a glute roll, and some sashimi.
There's got to be a hashtag glute roll in there somewhere.
All right, folks, we are ready for the confirmation.
We're going to go ahead and move on to the judging round, and Bob Cigarello will take us through that along with Steve Weinberger.
We're going to have our top 10 gentlemen on stage, please.
And again, Dan, when they bring these guys out, everyone wants to be like in that first call out, right? That's the main thing. They envision their names being called in that first call out. It just, the weight of the world comes off their shoulders when that happens. And you can be in that first call out and wind up in the second and the third call out. So it's not a given that just because you're in the first call out, you're going to be last man standing.
This is being judged live right now, folks. So be as loud as you want and help the judges out. And please welcome your head judge, Mr. Steve Weinberger.
Thank you, Bob. Can we see Rolly, Sean, Dexter, Rami, William, and Phil?
And that was predictable from last night's call-outs, Dan. I mean, all these guys equally, I think, improved. I didn't see anybody go the other direction. Sometimes they can fill up and fill out too much and lose ground. It seems like everybody equally got better as they were doing their comparisons yesterday.
And this is one of the more coveted moments in the sport, the chance to be a part of that Olympia first call-out. As you mentioned, William Bonac, Dexter Jackson, Sean Roden, Rudy Winkler join the defending champion.
Dexter and William, switch, please.
Phil Heath.
Dexter and William.
Along with Big Ramy, of course.
I believe in this comparison.
Rami and William, switch.
They'll move Rolly out from the center, I think, and move Rami closer to Phil. I imagine they'll probably stand next to each other in a minute.
And Rolly, switch.
And there it is, Dan.
And the crowd understands what they're watching. Everybody in the bodybuilding universe wants to see Mamadou Alsbaye, Big Ramy stand next to Phil, the Gift Heath, and see these guys go toe-to-toe and pose for pose.
Gentlemen, quarter turn to the right.
You're looking at two men on stage who have won the Mr. Olympia, Dexter Jackson, a former champion, Phil Heath, the reigning champion, and then there's Big Ramy, a guy who's trying to become champion.
Yeah, I mean, he's thick as a brick. I mean, again, this takes me back to when I competed with Dorian Yates. It's that apple and orange comparison. But I can tell you, Dexter does not look 10 years older than Phil Heath in this comparisons.
Now, what can't be lost in any of this is that Sean Roden, the guy who was runner-up here a year ago, is trying to make his kind of climb up and form a bit of a comeback in the show. But
he's a little passive, Dan. He always has been. He's going to have to show some aggression and let him know he's here to fight for this and try to get inside there and move Dexter on that outside. Phil's got to be careful here with his stomach. That's where he had a problem last night.
Well, here it is. This is where the Big Ramy fans will sit there and point out. I'd love it if these the camera could pan back over and we can get a clear sense of that Big Ramy versus Phil Heath comparison. But it's definitely an opportunity for the fans to right now see. These are the photos that are going to come out in the magazines that are going to be online after the show. It's these shots right here.
And Dan, that front lat spread is Big Ramy all day. He's just too big for all the guys on that lineup for the front lat spread.
Side chest.
And again, Dan, there were some pictures circulating yesterday, this side chest, where people thought that Big Ramy owned this pose when standing next to Phil Heath. Let's see how they look tonight.
Well, both of them are making it a point to showcase their hamstrings, and we are... it almost becomes murkier and murkier because Phil Heath obviously has a different look, and it's extremely difficult to compare these guys, but Big Ramy is massive, and he's in the best shape of his life. And they always say to win the Olympia, you have to be the best you've ever been, and for Big Ramy, that's exactly what's playing out tonight.
Not to mention, Dan, winning the Olympia is one from the back. Lee Haney, Dorian Yates, Ronnie Coleman, and now the gift, Phil Heath, should own this pose from calf to traps.
And of course, Dexter Jackson is right there, and he's showing that trademark conditioning, and Sean Roden continues to improve as the night goes on. He continues to dry up a little bit, so he's doing himself some justice. Maybe he can climb up a spot, but of course William Bonac is the guy who's got something to say about
Rolly and William switch.
And that's where they're bringing William Bonac closer to the action. They're going to give Sean a fair opportunity to stand next to the champion.
Gentlemen, back lat spread.
Steve Weinberger knows that there's a lot of money up for grabs. There are potential endorsement contracts up for grabs based on these outcomes, and he is going to make these guys work and work and work until they have a clear sense of who wins this. You can be sure Steve Weinberger does not want this contest to end and have people questioning whether or not he properly prepared them. So Steve's going to let these guys
switch back.
Absolutely. Of course, Sean's got to get outside. He just from the back, he didn't belong next to Phil Heath. Dexter, rightfully so, moves in closer to the champion. And again, from the back, that lat spread was Big Ramy. The back double bicep is Phil Heath, and we're back to that side chest, which arguably is one of those poses that Big Ramy wins. The side tricep, I think Phil Heath sneaks up on.
Abdominals and thighs.
Well, this will be an interesting shot, Sean, and the Phil fans will make their case. The Big Ramy fans will make their case. At the end of the day, the judge's case is the only one that matters. But how does Big Ramy win this contest? Walk us through this.
It's got to be one of those situations where it's based on improvement. Ramy is the best he's been. I cannot say the same thing about Phil Heath. We could break Phil Heath down from the years past that he's slightly off, whereas Big Ramy is the best he's been up to date.
Sean, I'm going to put you on the spot. Is Big Ramy a better bodybuilder tonight than Phil Heath?
There's a case that he's making right now, Dan, that I arguably would have absolutely no argument if he took the Sandow Trophy home. However, Phil's genetic strengths cannot be denied.
Well, Steve Weinberger is going to send Phil Heath and Big Ramy back in line, so he is established with definitive clarity that Phil Heath and Big Ramy are in fact our top two. I don't think there was any question about that.
No question about it, Dan, but again, you're not probably going to hear very many boos as Big Ramy wins here tonight, and arguably so, because Big Ramy has improved. Whereas if Phil wins the contest, the downside of being a dominant champion is that they want you to close the door on your competition, and Phil has left that door open. So should he win, I'm not so sure he's going to get a standing ovation.
Can't say enough about what William Bonac has become as a bodybuilder. You watch the way he compares to the great Dexter Jackson and all these other. This is a really good call out here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to get a sense for what William Bonac has become, it's nothing short of amazing. Sean Roden was given the opportunity earlier to move into an inner spot, and then Steve Weinberger looked at it, pushed him back off to the side.
Well, let me tell you something. Dexter wins it when he's standing next to William, but when you get down to that lower half, William's calves make Dexter look like an amateur. William's hamstrings still have that big fullness, and he's matching Dexter in terms of pound for pound muscularity, even though he's a smaller bodybuilder. His arms look to be equally the same size as Dexter. This is where William Bonac is earning his rightful spot. Dexter's wider from the back, but when you hit the double back bicep, William Bonac from head to toe is the more complete of the two. And this is where Sean falls behind, again, especially in the lower back department, but mostly the meaty, chunky middle back, along with Rolly Winkler. The lower back is just not there.
This pose down, of course,
Sean, Dexter, William, and Rolly back in line.
a battle for third place. Who has the advantage right now?
Josh and
I'm
Derek.
leaning with William
Cedric,
Bonac.
come on
William
up.
Bonac is just, I can't criticize him. So if you can't find the criticism, you have to go with the guy with the fewest flaws, whereas Dexter, as good as he is, right now is being challenged by the younger, but I don't even say hungrier, but the younger, more complete bodybuilder. You have to reward that
Gentlemen,
guy.
quarter turn to the right.
And this is how good this Olympia lineup is when you see guys like Josh Lenardowitz,
Quarter turn to the
Cedric
right.
McMillan, and Brandon Curry, and Nathan, these guys that are in this call out right now. These are good bodybuilders here.
And in this lineup, I'm going to go with Brandon
Quarter
Curry
turn
and
to the
Nathan
right.
Diasha in this comparison. And that says a lot because I believe Brandon Curry is taking out our reigning defending Arnold Classic champion
Face
from
front.
Ohio. Brandon won the Arnold Classic championships, and Nathan
double
Diasha
bicep.
is one of the more improved. Obviously, I believe that Josh is a little spent for all intents and purposes in terms of getting to this competition. But right now,
Front lat
I got
spread.
Brandon Curry in this for comparison.
Well, of course, the big storyline of tonight is will
Side
Phil
chest.
Heath be able to continue his reign atop the sport? If he's able to win this contest for the next year, we'll be discussing the possibility that he could become an 8-time champion a year from now. Now, that's a big storyline.
Back double
But I can
bicep.
tell you right now, these judges are not going to hand it to Phil Heath. He's not going to get this thing just because he is the defending champ. He's going to have to win this thing. And I think we've learned from past. Dexter Jackson beat the champion Jay Cutler. Phil Heath beat the champion Jay Cutler. We've seen it happen.
Back lat
The
spread.
champion can go down on this stage. It is not an automatic.
Very rarely have we seen it happen. Haley's comet comes by every
Sure.
once in a while, and we see an eclipse of the sun. The
Side
stars
tricep.
could be perfectly aligned right now for that to actually happen. But again, if Phil wins because he has a better total genetic structure and a better back, and that is half your body when we're talking the calves, the hamstrings, the glutes, the lower back, the middle back, the deltoids. He wins that from the rear.
Abdominals and thighs.
But there's more poses than the back double bicep, and Rami takes him out when he does the back lat spread. Rami wins the side chest. There are some poses that Rami wins, so there's a strong argument to be said for Rami actually winning this competition. Phil has to know that he's in a dogfight. They are not
most
comfortable.
muscular.
I know he works with Hani Ramba, but right now I think he's probably a little bit nervous, and we're going to see that come out in the pose down. Phil is going to be fighting like an animal, a dog on a bone, trying to hang on to that Sandow title and that
Thank you,
$400,000 check.
gentlemen.
He's going for history, so that means a lot
Dexter,
more
William,
than
Rami,
just
and
winning.
Phil.
History lasts forever. He's got 6 Olympia titles. He wants history.
All right, so now we have a sense for what they're thinking for fourth place, because they're going to do a 4-man call-out in which they're going to bring out Big Rami, Phil Heath, William Bonac, and they're going to bring out
Phil and
Dexter
William
Jackson.
switch.
And this is where you're going to get a chance to see these guys really make their money. If I'm not mistaken, $400,000 up for grabs for the winner's check.
It would have been nice to just see Phil and Big Rami, because that's really where the contest is. And then see William
Dexter and
and
William
Dexter.
switch.
That's what I would have liked to see. Those two alone and Dexter and William alone. And that would have been a more interesting comparison.
We still might see that.
Yeah, and we've seen these two
Gentlemen,
stand next to
double
each other
bicep.
already. So we're going to do it again.
All right, I'm going to take you pose by pose, Sean Ray. These guys are going to start with the front double bicep. Phil Heath versus Big Rami for the 2017 Olympia. Let's take it shot for shot. Front double bicep. Who has the advantage?
Right now, the advantage is
Front
Phil when his
lat
stomach
spread.
is flexed. He's got to be flexed or it doesn't look right.
Now they're going to move into the front lat spread. Phil Heath versus Big Rami.
I'm going with Big Rami all day on the front lat spread. Just way too wide.
Side
You
chest.
can't ignore the sweeping quads.
Now, a pose that has always really fared very well for Phil Heath is the side chest. Let's move in to this comparison. How do you see this one?
I'm staying with Big Rami on the side chest. I saw this a few times, and it is ridiculous in terms of the girth. Phil is hard to the pecs. It just doesn't have the girth, the width, and the meat and the mass. He's competitive, but Big Rami wins that pose to me.
Back double bicep.
All right, the plot thickens. They are turned to the back. As they do these poses, they will check themselves on the monitor. They're basically watching the same thing you guys are watching at home. They just have to look up a little bit higher to do it. Phil Heath, Big Rami, William Bonac, Dexter Jackson will go into a back double bicep. Sean Ray, how does it look?
And this is a maturity thing. I think Phil has him on the muscularity part. Again, in the lower part, this is where Big Ramy, he had the hamstring injury before. The calves aren't necessarily all the way there. I think Phil has this pose.
Back lat spread.
All right, now we're going to move in to the back lat spread. Again, back lat spreads are flagship Mr. Olympia type poses. So who gets this one?
Big Ramy all day. He's wide as a 747 jet. Watch those lats open up and basically make Phil look very narrow.
And that's not easy to do, by the way.
It's not. Phil, you can see he's got the better conditioning, but the width on
Side
Ramy is
tricep.
ridiculous, and Phil's got to look over there at Dexter Jackson, who's actually wider than him. Phil making sure we don't miss those hamstrings, which are better than all of those guys on that stage.
Now we're going to go in to a side tricep shot. Again, another pose that has always been very favorable to the champ.
Absolutely, and I just think Ramy's hitting that shot wrong. He's
Abdominals
not
and
doing it
thighs.
right, and Phil didn't even give us the look. That's one of his poses. We didn't even see it. And this is where, I'm telling you, this is where Phil is dead serious. He thinks he's kidding with Dexter, but this is about money right now and history. He's fighting for his paycheck.
Just looking at the intensity in Big Ramy's face as he hits that shot. He is here. He knows he has a chance. He can
Favorite
taste this
muscular.
thing. Phil Heath, though, is not going to go quietly. And quite frankly, from what I would guess, Phil Heath coming into this thing may have had a scorecard lead. But again, I don't know how that played out. But right now, this thing is far from over. You have two guys, two lions who are gunning for a serious title. And I don't know if either of them are really separating themselves. But Sean, based on your analysis, Big Ramy has a whole lot of advantages.
He certainly does, Dan, and I got to tell you, Phil is getting more and more aggressive because he realizes the sand in the clock is ticking, and he's got to get that title. This is what he's here for.
All right, thank you, Big Steve. Thank you, gentlemen.
Nobody's walking off this stage feeling comfortable.
All right, well, that's going to wrap up that portion of the Mr. Olympia prejudging, and we're back to Las Vegas after the break. All right, we're back with Amazon Sports Nutrition's coverage of Joe Weider's Olympia Fitness and Performance Weekend. Dan Sullivan and Sean Ray continue to take you through the action, and it turns out that we have ourselves a battle on our hands, and I think to some degree an unexpected battle.
Well, and you know what? It's a warm welcome battle. I mean, Phil has been so dominant for so long. We saw this happen with Ronnie Coleman, a few times with Dorian Yates, and right now, let's see what happens.
All right, so we're going to move now into the Bikini Olympia portion of the show, and we're going to give you guys a chance to see the top 10 bikini bodies in the world as Norman Azria makes her way to the stage. And Sean, it really is something what this division has become. This division has become incredibly popular.
No
Coming
question.
in to the under 212-pound portion of the contest. Now, for those of you who are watching this type of event for the first time, these are the best bodybuilders in the world who weigh 212 pounds or less. It's a division that was created a while back, and it's opened the door for a very competitive, very spirited part of the bodybuilding world. And its reigning champion, Flex Lewis, is looking for another title. And Sean Ray, this 212 battle, from what I'm gathering, is very much to be determined.
Well, you could say that, Dan. I mean, this is a stronghold title that was made for someone like James Flex Lewis, and he is looking at the future right now in terms of Ashkanani. Ahmad comes all the way from Kuwait. He's a decorated bodybuilder, won the amateur Australia Arnold Classic, and then went into Columbus this past March and held off some veterans in the form of David Henry and Jose Raymond to win that title, and has been the talk of the 212 division with the exception of James Flex Lewis. And I got to tell you, he seems to be a very big fan of Flex Lewis, and I think he's going to have to get more stage times with Flex Lewis to believe that he can actually beat Flex Lewis. It's much a mental game as it is a physical, but I can tell you, I think Ashkanani was a little bit tighter and just a little bit drier back in March, but he's definitely very close to where he should be to at least make a statement.
Well, things are happening fast for Ashkanani. He got his pro card by winning the Arnold Classic Australia Amateur event and won his professional debut a year ago in Tampa at Tim Gardner's event. He was runner-up at this event here a year ago. and he's really put himself in position to make a run at the title. Most people felt coming in that if there was anybody that was well suited to take out the champ, it was Ahmad Ashkenani from Kuwait.
Well, nobody outworks Ahmad. Ahmad eats, sleeps, and breathes bodybuilding. This is a bodybuilder's bodybuilder. Could certainly use a little bit more thigh separation, but his back is as wide as Big Ramy on the frame that he has for this division. Has got to maintain tight control of the midsection. I can't emphasize that enough because it can make or break you, especially when you got James Flex Lewis in his lineup. The arms, the delts, the pecs, the back, it's all there. He just needs a little bit more refinement in terms of conditioning, but he's got plenty of time to do that.
Sean, we really should welcome our viewers over in Kuwait. That part of the world has become serious about bodybuilding. Some of our top bodybuilding talent is coming to us by way of Kuwait. We've heard a lot about folks over at Oxygen Gym and the caliber of bodybuilders that are coming out of there. Also, a lot of the American trainers who are going over there to work with these athletes.
It's a very conducive atmosphere over there, and let's tip our hat to Beta Budai, who's made that atmosphere environmentally friendly for the bodybuilder. They're like the boxers that flock to Las Vegas to train for the big fights. These guys are making the pilgrimage over there. They know that there's only bodybuilding over there. There's no distractions. You go to Kuwait, you're going there to train and train hard. There's no bright lights in big city and nightclubs and that type of distraction for these guys. It is a camp. And don't get me wrong, when they're there, they put in the work, and you see that when you look at these guys here.
There he is, Ahmad Ashkenani. It was good. The question is it good enough to take out Flex Lewis? And we're going to find out. But once again, you're only going to get to see our top 5 posing routines in the 212 division.
Finalist from the USA, former 202 Olympia champion, David Henry.
And you're going to look at David Henry, as Bob mentioned. Of course, he was the very first champion of this division, a career military man, a master sergeant in the U.S. Air Force, and somebody who many people have said, this is the physique that, quite frankly, everybody wants.
Well, he set the standard. You know, way back in 2007, he won the very first 202-pound division, Dan, in New York. I promoted that contest and watched him come into Las Vegas and win the very first Olympia show. He's put on a little bit of weight since then, and he's competing against bigger competitors at 212. But he represents well, and he's been Mr. Consistency, like Dexter Jackson. You can't say enough about this decorated bodybuilder. Professional and a very nice person to boot, not to mention a military serviceman.
I know it's been frustrating at times for David Henry because he shows in, he shows up, he does the work, he presents what's really a beautiful physique, and a lot of times he doesn't always get the call. Sometimes he'll lose out to the freakier type bodybuilder, and I know that frustrates him because a lot of people felt that this division was originally created for physiques like David Henry, and then as these guys have grown, we're starting to see a new type of look in this division, which I know has been a source of frustration for David.
Well, look, let's not get it twisted. This guy won this contest. I mean, he was the very first. So he's had his day in the sun, so to speak. He's over 40. He's been doing it at a very high level. And the father time will catch you. David's legs are a little bit slight. The hamstrings are a little bit weak. The lower back is not what it once was. But he's got a world-class physique, and he's been doing it at a high level for a long time. Eventually, the younger guys will come in, and James Flex Lewis, along with Ashkenani, it's their time. It's their time, and David's still just showing people that, look, you don't have to go away just because you're not winning, and thank goodness for that, because we can appreciate a physique like this at his age.
Bringing up under David Henry. Our next competitor won the USA, won his first pro show, and here he is at his first Olympia. Please welcome Derek Lunsford.
Well, you talk about things happening fast. For Derek Lunsford, he is off and running. Bob just mentioned he was your 2017 USA overall champ. And if you're looking at the calendar, that's only a couple months ago. He made his pro debut right after that in Tampa. He won that too. Now, 2 months after he turned pro, he's here in Las Vegas competing competing at the Olympia, and he's also happens to be an extremely nice young man.
Dan, he's 24 years young. He doesn't know anything about life and living on the Olympia stage, but he's going to grow up on this stage because you can clearly see the potential is there. Look at the sweeps. Look at the arms, the tiny little waist. He does the vacuum nicely. Of course, I would appreciate if he would be a little bit more darker. A darker tan will help him moving into this competition because it shows more conditioning. And he has a young physique. You can see the muscle maturity is not there by comparison to a David Henry or even a James Flex Lewis. It comes with time. And in time, you'll start to see the grainier look. You'll start to see the more mature look. But all the elements are there for this guy to one day be the 212-pound division champion. Interviewed him after he won the overall USA's, Dan. The Olympia was nothing but a pipe dream because he barely had time to digest the victory and the pro card, and then boom, there he was in Tampa, Florida, winning, and now here he is today, debuting.
Now, I don't like to get involved in people's business or give out career advice, but if there was ever a case for a guy who might want to take a little time off, this might be an example because he's got all the parts, the potential, it's all there. He obviously has the structure to be great in this division, but this is a physique that needs some time to just pack on some muscle, and he also needs to obviously make strides in terms of figuring out the formula to achieve elite level conditioning. He's obviously not there yet, but this is somebody who I think if he puts in a little time and maybe stays away from a contest prep for potentially even a year or so, he could come back and he could do some serious damage.
Living proof, Dan. Happened for me in 1988. I jumped in just to get my feet wet. Was 13th place and took a year off, came back in 1990 and wound up in 3rd place. This guy's got his head on straight. He's got all the elements and all the tools. And a break that you're talking about, again, he can come back next year and be vying for the winner.
Our next finalist from the USA, the Boston Mass, Jose Raymond.
Well, amazingly enough, Jose Raymond is competing in the Olympia for the 9th consecutive year. He's actually been in this contest every year since he's a pro. I mentioned that last night as well. I think it's one of the more remarkable achievements that he's been able to get here year in and year out. He was runner-up at this contest a couple years back in 2015, and he has really become one of the more popular bodybuilders in the world, and he is a perfect example of why the 212 division works, because physiques like this, athletes like Jose Raymond are given a place to compete and also a place to build enormous followings.
He's got a huge fan base, Dan. Jose is a true Bostonian, and to hear this guy talk about the passion of bodybuilding, which he shared with his brother Tito, who's a very successful personal trainer who also married a fitness model in Amy Fodley from way back in the 90s. The fitness runs in the family, and Jose Raymond has been doing it at a very high level for a very long time.
He's obviously in great shape tonight. He's got that gnarly, grainy muscle. And this is your classic Jose Raymond physique.
Yeah, and he always says that. You always say gnarly. You use the word gnarly. You know what? That's what I am. I'm a gnarly bodybuilder. He eats it up, man. I mean, he's got that vascularity. His back is one of his strong points. He did have a knee problem a year ago, which actually he said he doesn't feel any pain. He's able to squat with full reps. So this is the first time he's able to actually come in the Olympia injury-free and feel like he's done the business.
I always say, you ever want to see something really incredible in bodybuilding? There's certain things that just kind of blow your mind. If you're up close to Jose and you get a chance to see his forearms are the size of most people's legs. This is a very big, thick bodybuilder, happens to be one of the nicest guys in the sport.
Absolutely. You're not going to be a nicer, more laid-back, chilled-out bodybuilder, but you go in the gym, and he's all business. You don't want to get into his training circle unless you plan on actually doing the business.
I'll wait outside.
Well, the stronger ones, he's little, but he's as strong as an ox.
Thank you, Jose Raymond. And your final competitor from the United Kingdom, he is your 5-time reigning and defending 212 Olympia champion, James Flex Lewis.
Oh, here he is in in each of the last 5 years. He has been the last man standing, a 5-time reigning champion. No one has ever won this division, this title, more than Flex Lewis. Over the course of his reign atop this sport, he has become a dad. He has gotten married. I have had the great privilege of attending his wedding. He is a family man in every sense of the word, one of the more popular bodybuilders in the world. I don't care if you're talking about the big division or the 212 division. This is a guy with a big fan base, and he's back here looking for number 6.
And number 6 is not without his reach. He is definitely in the driver's seat in this category, Dan, and he's got probably one of the best set of calves in the entire show, including the open division. Those calves are from another planet. This kid turned pro by winning the British Championships over in England. Comes to us by way of Wales. Spent some time out in Tennessee, and now he's set up in Florida. Now he's had to go through the hurricane and the death of Dallas McCarver, and having to, go to a funeral and then have to go through this, just like Josh Lenarkowitz. And yet he still found a way to come out here and represent. And he says he's representing for Dallas, because this is what Dallas would have wanted: James to go out there, defend his title, and bring home that trophy.
He's also become a great presenter of his physique, and I'm so glad you mentioned Dallas McCarver. For those who don't know, Flex Lewis and Dallas McCarver were extremely close. They did just about everything together. They ate together, they trained together, and they were supposed to be here together. Dallas was not planning to compete this year, but they were supposed to continue to train together, and of course the sky was the limit for Dallas McCarver, and I know Flex, as you mentioned, salutes Dallas's legacy this weekend with what he hopes to be another title.
Yeah, and let's not get it twisted. He is not at his best, which tells you how good he really is. I mean, at not peaking out, he's still holding off the competition because he put in the work when other guys were still thinking about getting ready for the competition. He's trained year-round for this show. Him and his trainer, Neil Hill, they put in the work early so that if something should go south, he has enough in the tank to make it to the finish line, and I think he may have just enough to bring this title home again.
Your 5-time Olympia champion, Flex Lewis. All right, folks.
All right, Carlos Sanchez is standing by with your newly crowned Bikini Olympia champion.
212 boys bring the
I am here with the new 2017 Bikini Olympia champion, Angelica Teixeira. Congratulations.
Well, athletes who competed here in the 212 division and are not among the top 5. And Sean Ray, it looks like we have ourselves a bit of a battle now. With regard to Flex Lewis, the talk was, did he open the door to create an opportunity for somebody else? And I don't know that he did, but I certainly don't know that there's anybody in this lineup who's better than Flex Lewis tonight.
No, I mean, the door was open. Nobody sees the day. This was Ahmad Ashkanani's show to win. But again, Ahmad's coming all the way from Kuwait. It's a long trip to come from Kuwait, whereas James came in from Florida. Granted, he had all those disadvantages. However, James is that good, and Ashkanani may have served a little bit better by arriving in Las Vegas maybe a couple of weeks early to train here instead of a couple of days early. Right now, I think James did enough to pull this title off.
Guys trying to make the most of their stage time, their opportunity, and a bunch of streaks are on the line tonight. Phil Heath and Flex Lewis both hoping to reign supreme for another year. A lot of money, a lot of prestige, and a whole lot of legacies on the line tonight. And we're going to move now into the confirmation round. So what they're going to do is they're going to bring him back out. They're going to turn it over to head judge Steve Weinberger, and he's going to take these 5 through the same comparisons that you saw in the bigger division, and we're going to get a clearer sense for how these guys look, with the anticipation that Flex Lewis at this point is going to be difficult to take out.
Well, and Dan, this is not bodybuilding light. These are professionals. They do the exact same thing as the open competitors do.
Time for our confirmation round of scoring. Let's send it down to the judges. Big Steve.
Thank you, Bob. Flex and Derek switch. Ahmad and David switch.
I want to see right next to Flex Lewis.
Gentlemen, quarter turn to the right. Quarter turn
so
to the
there is
right.
that is the comparison everyone wanted to see. Flex Lewis right next to Ahmad Ashkanani, flanked by Jose Raymond on the other side. And Sean, I'm going to take you through this the way I took you through the last time.
To the right.
Give me a sense for how these guys compare, and we'll start with this quarter turn and just kind of break it down, because this is Flex Lewis, who doesn't really fare well in that particular shot, and it's a tough angle too.
None of them fare well in that particular pose, and again, no one sees the moment as we get to conditioning. Jose Raymond, however,
looks better,
is absolutely coming on strong, and Ashkanani has everything to be worried about in the form of Jose Raymond. Now, Derek, if he was a little bit darker, again, he would look a little bit more competitive and should be moved inside on the opposite side of James Flex Lewis next to
I'll tell you what, if this was a horse race, they'd be saying, around the final stretch they come, and here comes Jose Raymond.
Absolutely.
Because he's making a strong final bid to make a run at this thing, because Jose Raymond's body has come to life.
And it does in the comparisons, because you can see the differences between the physiques now. So this is where Jose has a tendency to have it over some of the other guys. Ashkanani seemed to be a little bit more smoother, especially from the rear.
Sean, is it fair to say that right now Flex Lewis's body is having a hard time hanging on?
Absolutely. I mean, it's tired, I'm sure. He's been under the gun and he's been stressed. No one's coming in to take the title from him. However, I give the back double bicep to Jose Raymond.
Well, the plot thickens here. Again, coming into this thing, we thought Flex Lewis had a stronghold on this title, but as the night progresses, the question is it too late? Has enough of this contest already happened that's going to solidify Flex's position? But Ashkanani and Jose Raymond right now are making things a little bit more interesting than I think Flex was prepared for.
You're right, and when I'm looking at Flex, it doesn't look like he's digging in deep. It doesn't even look like he's hitting that side tricep. Yep. It almost looks like a half attempt, and the strain is in the face rather than on the physique. You know, you have to flex the physique. You have to practice those posings. That's not a good side tricep when you're facing the judges.
He's a little bit more cerebral than Flex Lewis usually is. Like you said, he's usually all about the intensity, all about the swagger, and right now, I'm not seeing it from him.
Well, you're seeing a struggle. The face is strained. Jose's over here smiling. He's like, you know, he's been there before. I think James right now has got to realize that this is a contest where you're supposed to shine. It's supposed to look easy. He's making it look like it's hard, and it's because his body is not there as it normally is.
All right, well, here they are. It's pose down time here at the Olympia under 212. And, you know, right now, based on the way those images played out, Flex Lewis has his hands full. They moved Flex Lewis to the center of that call out, but they never mixed it up after that.
No, and it's again, nobody's slamming the door on James. And I mean, there you saw James touch Jose on the glutes. Jose can't stand next to him from the hamstrings, glutes, and calves. However, Jose is very competitive in the rear double bicep because James Lewis is a little bit narrow. But again, when you turn around to the front, this is where Jose struggles against the size of James Flex Lewis's biceps. And right now, this is what Flex Lewis wants. He wants this back double bicep. Jose wins it on the upper side, but Flex Lewis wins it on the lower side.
Now, I'll add this about this division. One of the things that makes the 212 division unique is that these guys are all genuinely friendly with each other.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of camaraderie.
A lot of camaraderie in this division. They spend the entire year staying in touch with each other, supporting each other, texting each other. They'll all tell you that these aren't real rivalries. These guys are very, very friendly because they have an appreciation because they're both doing it. They're all doing it the same way.
Yeah, they're having fun. Dan, that's lost on the open category. The open guys are out there. They're all about the business and about making the money. And they kind of travel in their own little tribes and their own pack. But here, you're right. These guys develop friendships. Derek will learn to get a little bit darker from these veterans.
What a thrill for Derek Lunsford to get to stand next to the legendary David Henry. But we're going to go ahead and take a quick break now. We're back to Vegas
gentlemen.
After a break.
USA, winning his first pro show, and then qualifying for the Olympia. State of bodybuilding is in great hands, folks.
All right, we're back here at the Orleans Arena on the brink of two of the biggest announcements of the year in the world of professional bodybuilding. We're going to soon learn your finalists or your final placings for the Olympia 212. They're going to do that now, and shortly thereafter, we will learn who the 2017 Mr. Olympia champion is. And we're going to send it back to the stage for Bob Ciccarello's announcement of your fifth place
Folks,
finisher.
if you got a favorite, now's the time to yell it out. $77,000 on the line. I'd like to welcome to the stage, representing Amazon Media Group, Mr. R.C. Casey. R.C. will take that 5th place award, the check for $3,000 to our 5th place finisher, Derek Lunsford.
All right, well, a real strong showing for Derek Lunsford. He entered his first Olympia after winning in the USA's and winning in Tampa, and now he's top 5 in the world. So I'd say his career is off and running. And Sean Ray, Derek settles in for 5th place.
Absolutely. I believe he's relieved, excited. He's probably more happy about what happened here than the victory that got him here, because this right now is the beginning, not the end of his career.
Well, Derek is going through the motions as a rookie Olympia competitor. He is being instructed by Bob Ciccarello as to what to do, because right now the photographers want to take his picture.
The 4th place award, representing Amazon Sports Nutrition, Ms. Stefani Ayanon. And please take the 4th place award, the check for $5,000 to our 4th place finisher, David Henry.
There he is. David Henry has to settle for 4th place. The Dexter Jackson of the 212 division, a former champion, remains among the very best in the world. Congratulations to David Henry, really one of the classiest bodybuilders in the business, and he continues to bring it, and he'll take 4th place here at the 2017 Olympia.
Nothing to be sad about there. David Henry does the business. He's been here before.
The rookies, they don't want to let it down. The veterans, they just kick it over there. Presenting the 3rd place award, representing Amazon Sports Nutrition, Miss Erin Blevins.
This is where it gets interesting, Dan. I mean, Ashkanani and Jose.
She will take the 3rd place check for $10,000, the Olympia bronze medal, to our 3rd place finisher, Jose Raymond.
Well, this is a tough one. I can tell you right now, Jose Raymond is going to feel like he deserved better. But you're probably looking at 3 guys up there right now that each could make a really good case for a different outcome, each their own case for having won this thing. They all brought something just a little bit different, and this was a very impressive Jose Raymond.
No doubt. He has nothing to hold his head down about. He fought the good fight. I didn't think he was actually going to make it here after the knee injury. And mind you, he had a dismal appearance in March at the Arnold Classic, where, of course, Ashkanani won. He fought his way back. He represented well. Nothing to be ashamed of.
In the center square, please.
All right, our coverage continues from Las Vegas. Dan Solomon, along with Sean Ray, we are about to learn who the best bodybuilder in the world under 213 pounds, the 212 division. Title is up for grabs, and it's between Ahmad Ashkanani and James Flex Lewis.
I won't draw this out too long.
A lot at stake for James Flex Lewis, going for number 6, I believe it is, Dan.
And Ashkanani going for number 1.
Tradition, I will now announce the winner of your 2017 212 Olympia champion. Please take the 1st place award, the 1st place check for $40,000, the Olympia gold medal, and the title of 2017 212 Olympia champion, to 6-time champion Flex Lewis.
And there it is for the 6th time. Flex Lewis remains on top of the bodybuilding world in the Olympia under 212 division. And a really big fight for Flex Lewis. It's been a tough year. It's been a tough several months. And I know he was quick to recognize the dedication that he made of this weekend's effort to the late Dallas McCarver. He wanted to make sure everyone knew that this was for Dallas. And for now, Flex Lewis will remain atop the sport for another year. Ahmad Ashkanani, an impressive showing as well. He'll settle for 2nd. He'll bring that 2nd place trophy all the way back to Kuwait, where, if I had to guess, come a year from now, Ahmad Ashkenani might be the favorite to take this title. The question is, how much longer is Flex Lewis going to compete in this division? Only time will tell. But first things first, Flex Lewis will celebrate his 6th Olympia title.
Even on an off day, it shows you how good and dangerous James Flex Lewis actually is in this division. The ground was not closed. The gap was not closed by Ashkenani. And I believe firmly that he will be back a year from now going for number 7.
And one more,
and probably doing it again.
A lot of people wonder what that physique can do if it was given the freedom to grow beyond 212 pounds. I've talked to his trainer, Neil Hill, about it. Flex Lewis and I have talked about it. And we're going to go ahead and I guess take a break right now as we continue our coverage here at Olympia Weekend. All right, we're back at the Orleans Arena. Dan Solomon along with Sean Ray. We are moments away from learning who our 2017 Mr. Olympia champion will be. Right now you're looking at Flex Lewis on stage having some words with the fans.
Backstage we got new rookies and I'm very grateful to see new blood coming into the sport. It keeps me on my toes. It keeps everybody on their toes. And again, guys, I want to just say one more thing. There's been a lot of adversity in my prep. I want to dedicate this win to Dallas McCarver. I love you, my brother.
You got it. No better dedication in the Big D, big country in the house. Flex, congratulations. Hit that pose and I just won your 6th Olympia title, Flex.
Very respectable, very humble in victory and recognizing the gravity of the situation as he pays tribute to his friend.
One of the classiest champs in the sport, Flex Lewis, dedicating this thing to Dallas McCarver, to the memory of the late Dallas McCarver. And, of course, he had some nice things to say during the break about his trainer, Neil Hill. They've turned out to be a pretty formidable team. Now we're going to move on to the Mr. Olympia, the main event, bringing up the top 10.
Well, this is why we're here, Dan. I mean, this is the main event of the evening, and they saved the best for last. 53 years and only 13 champions. And now we're going to find out if there will be number 14 or Phil Heath will tie Arnold Schwarzenegger for number 7.
All right, our top 10 gentlemen on stage. Presenting the 10th place award, representing Amazon Media Group. Let's have R.C. Casey back on stage. Please take the 10th place award, the check for $16,000, and present it to Cedric McMillan.
All right, so Cedric remains among the top 10 in the world. This was not the placing he was looking for, but I can tell you right now, this is a class act, and he is smiling. He gets it. He's going to move forward. He's going to win more titles, and Cedric McMillan is a humble, classy champion, and he has respect for the sport, for his family, for himself, and I couldn't say enough good things about what Cedric McMillan represents as a bodybuilder.
Even on an off day, Dan, he still remains top 10 in the world, and that's speaking a lot considering this is a global enterprise.
No, stay right there. Go ahead.
And he, on an off day, still stays in the top 10.
Presenting the 9th place award, representing Amazon Sports Nutrition, Ms. Stefania Iannone. And please take that 9th place award, the check for $19,000, and present it to the king of the gym, Josh Lenardowitz.
All right, Sean. So Josh Lenardowitz is going to check in the 9th place spot this year. I know he came in looking for better, but then again, all these guys have. I know he worked real hard, traveled a bunch, went through a lot of adversity. He also was very closely connected to the Dallas McCarver situation. Obviously, probably as connected to it as anybody, to be honest with you. He was, right alongside Dallas as his roommate, and he's going to finish 9th, and he's going to go back to Australia.
Congratulations,
and I'm sure he's going to receive a king's welcome because this is a very popular guy over there, and Josh should feel very good about his ability to complete his prep, get here to the Olympia, and take a top 10 finish, settling at number 9.
And please take the 8th place award, the check for $20,000, and present it to Brandon Curry.
The prodigy, Brandon Curry, I think the efforts and the paycheck speak for themselves. He went over to Kuwait, separated himself from his family, won 2 pro shows, and lands in the top 10 of the Mr. Olympia. This is the best year he's had as a professional.
I think this more than anything kind of showcases just how competitive this lineup. Brandon Curry was exceptional here at the Olympia, and for him to bring the package that he brought and to only be good enough for an 8th place spot just kind of shows you how stacked we are in this division.
And please take the 7th place award, the check for $25,000, and present it to Nathan Diasha.
Nathan comes all the way from the UK. A year ago was out of the top 10, and here he is.
All right, so and then there were 6, and I want to warn everybody, after we make the announcement of the 6th place finisher, we are going to take a quick break. You're not going to miss any of the action as it plays out on stage, but we are going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsors before we announce the top 5.
Sports Nutrition, Miss Erin Blevins. Please take the 6th place award, the check for $35,000, and present it to
Rolly Winkler, I believe, Dan.
Rolly Winkler.
Rolly Winkler takes the 6th place spot. That is now his highest Olympia showing. A strong Olympia here in 2017 for Rolly Winkler. Brings more muscle than just about anybody. And, it's a big-time Olympia for Rolly Winkler, and I think this is a spot that he's been looking for a long time.
And there wasn't a physique for him to compare to in that lineup, so 6th place is a victory for him.
You want to find out who's in the top 5 at the Olympia? Who wins the Olympia? You're going to have to wait, and we're back after the break.
All right, folks, we are...
All right, we're back here at the Orleans Arena for the moment that bodybuilding fans await all year round, the crowning of a new Mr. Olympia. And we're going to find out who that's going to be, whether or not it is in fact a new Mr. Olympia, or whether Phil Heath is able to retain the title. We're going to learn that in just a moment as Bob Ciccarello announces the 5th place finisher on down. And this is a moment that is met with more anticipation than I think we expected, because Mamdou Elsbaye, all the way from Kuwait, came to Vegas, gunning for Phil Heath. He's done the work, and we're going to find out what head judge Steve Weinberger has to say about this as he takes them through a final set of comparisons.
Gentlemen, quarter turn to the right. Quarter turn to the right. Quarter turn to the right. Face front. Front double bicep.
So this is going to be our final chance to get to see these guys compared. Phil Heath in the center, on one side of him, Big Ramy Mamdou Elsbaye on the other side, the former Olympia champion of 2008, Dexter Jackson. William Bonac all the way off to the right side of your screen, and Sean Roden all the way off to the left side. These are the top 5 bodybuilders in the world. And now what they're going to do is they're going to move Big Ramy into the center. He is milking the crowd. The crowd is responding in a big way. During the commercial break, Bob Ciccarello asked the audience who they thought was going to win. He mentioned every single name, and the name that got the biggest applause was Big Ramy. People are really excited about the possibility that we could potentially see the crowning of a 14th Mr. Olympia tonight.
Something to get excited about, but Phil Heath is not going to go quietly into the night, Dan. This is where his experience may come through, but we also might see a different Ramy, knowing the potential and the gravity of the situation. Let's find out who seizes the moment.
I know we say this a lot, but I would not want to be holding that pencil and paper at the judges' table right now. This is extremely close, extremely difficult to call. Big Ramy has done the work, and he has brought something extremely dangerous. I don't know if he's going to win tonight. He might, but I can tell you this right now. He's created a whole lot of intrigue as we begin the march to the 2018 Olympia. First things first, we got to crown a champion.
Well, you can see Phil's just got better genetics. Tinier waist. From the back, he's lights out as far as I'm concerned. However, Ramy is super wide. The judges have got to take into account conditioning does count for something, as you see in Phil Heath's glutes and his hamstrings. But there's something to be said, Dan, for getting as Big Ramy is and still being able to have a very pleasing physique. Look at the side of his leg compared to Phil's. It is ridiculously large. We don't see that. It is ridiculous. He's 5'9".
Dominoes in 5.
We knew Big Ramy was special from the moment we first heard about him. His first couple outings at the Olympia were impressive. They were respectable, but we knew he had further that he needed to go. We knew that there was a piece of this puzzle that he hadn't found yet. It appears that he has found it. And now they're going to go through the most muscular, which is obviously going to be the image that you're going to see across social media over the next 24 hours as these guys hit their favorite most muscular in the final moments of Olympia judging, their final chance to make their case. There's your 2008 Olympia champion, Dexter Jackson, Sean Roden, last year's runner-up, Phil Heath, Big Ramy, William Bonac are going to catch their breath, and it's now time for a pose-down.
There's only one man on that stage that has beaten your reigning six-time defending champion, and that is Dexter the Blade Jackson. Everyone else has been a bridesmaid along the way, and they've all taken turns beating each other in competitions around the world on the bodybuilding circuit. However, Phil Heath, when he ventured outside the United States, has done nothing but win. He won over in India at the Shuru Classic. He won over in Spain at the Arnold Classic Europe, and he's focused since then only on the Mr. Olympia Championships.
And in typical fashion, the champion is making his way to one side of the stage, and the contenders are chasing. And who knows when the day will come where they will start chasing Big Ramy. I have a feeling it's not too far down the road. The question is that going to start tonight? Phil Heath is an impressive champion. He's trying to win his 7th standout trophy, something that has only been done by Arnold Schwarzenegger, Ronnie Coleman, and Lee Haney in the history of the Mr. Olympia contest. Big Ramy is having a whole lot of fun here in Las Vegas tonight. He knows what's at stake. His contingency of supporters have followed him here, and there's a whole lot of enthusiasm around the possibility that a new champion could be crowned. Seeing Sean Roden up there is also a credit to his ongoing consistency. He has been top 5 in the world for several years in a row right now, and apparently he will stay there, or certainly he will have a spot in the top 6, or in the top 5 rather. But for Phil Heath, the question is, did he do enough? Big Ramy comes over, he asks permission to make his way out into the crowd. Or I guess they're not going to authorize that permission. They seem to be on a different time constraint this year. Typically, they'll allow these guys out into the audience to bring the fans to their feet, to take pictures with the fans during the pose down. We're not going to see that tonight for television considerations.
Let me give you some perspective, Dan. Right now, these guys are physically exhausted. There's really very little gas to take. And now with this camera angle, you see the detail that Ramy doesn't necessarily have in that muscularity shot that Phil actually is carrying. But this is when they're spent. They've been dieting in the anxiety and the dehydration. It is a very strenuous position to be in. They cannot wait to get this thing over.
And I'm going to caution the fans out there, because I know there's fans of Big Ramy that think he has this. The fans of Phil Heath thinks he has it. And you know what? On some level, you're both right, because you both have a good case for winning this thing. There isn't a right or a wrong answer on this thing. These guys are having a lot of fun. They all bring something very different. What Big Ramy brings is not what Phil Heath brings, but they are both, or in the case of Big Ramy, he is at the top of his game. Phil Heath obviously has a genetic predisposition to deliver something that's remarkable. And the question is that genetic predisposition going to be enough to hold off Big Ramy for at least another year?
Let me just tell you something. Whoever is the first runner-up, this shouldn't be a boo in this audience. This is an amazing event right now in this time in bodybuilding. To be a part of this, Dan, on this level, is very exciting to witness. There are no losers here.
place award, representing Amazon Sports Nutrition, I'd like to welcome Stefania back to the stage. Please take the 5th place award, the check for $45,000 to your 5th place finisher, Sean Roden.
All right, Sean Ray. There it is. Sean Roden is going to finish 5th place here at the 2017 Mr. Olympia, an outcome that certainly is not surprising at all based on the way the judges called this thing out through the course of the contest. A testament to Sean Roden for continuing to stay among the top 5 in the world where he has been for several years, and he'll stay there once again. And really one of the great bodybuilders on the planet. He fell just a little bit short. I know he wanted to bring something a little bit different, but it didn't quite play out for him this year. But once again, $45,000 5th place check.
Well, look, he went from 1st to 5th. It's not a crime, Dan. I've been very familiar with 2nd place in the Olympia and 5th place. It's a little bit different in the pocketbook. Sean Roden has nothing to be ashamed of.
Presenting the 4th place award, representing Amazon Media Group, Mr. R.C. Casey. You will take the 4th place award, a check for $55,000, and present it to the Blade, Dexter Jackson.
Once again, Dexter Jackson remains among the world's very best. He was 3rd a year ago. He'll settle for 4th this year. He'll turn 48 years old in November, but apparently for the Blade, age means nothing, and the fans respect it. They appreciate it. And Dexter Jackson, I'm going to tell you right now, he's going to be back again next year.
Well, there's nothing. Look at Dexter Jackson said, unless he falls out of the top 6, he doesn't have a plan B. This is his life's calling. He's showing us his life's work. It's not that he's off, and it's not that he's old. He is in the elite of the elite. And to get 4th on this stage tonight is a feat that very few bodybuilders can do.
And I'll remind everyone that all of these guys, the entire top 5, is already qualified for next year's Olympia.
The Olympia bronze medal to your 3rd place finisher, William Bonac.
William Bonac continues to climb the ladder, joins the very exclusive top 3 in the World Club, where he will be presented with an Olympia bronze medal, something I know you are very familiar with. Sean Ray, I think you have a few of those hanging in your office.
I got 3 of them, Dan, and I got to tell you something. That is a heavy little weight that he's got around his neck. And it is an accomplishment in his career that he'll be able to tell his grandchildren, because he is the number 3 bodybuilder, not just tonight, but in the world at his profession. That is a very good feeling to have. And now he's going to focus on 2nd or 1st. He's got his work cut out.
On the line here tonight, folks, $400,000. The Sandow and the title of 2017 Mr. Olympia. Folks, a moment like this, I need a little bit of help up here. And I don't know about you, but I smell something cooking in the air.
Phil looks concerned.
Please welcome to the stage, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson.
The Rock brings that element to any audience. He's a big fan of bodybuilding, Dan. He has supported bodybuilding, and he puts his work in, working with George Farah and Hani Rambod throughout his career.
Okay. It's a very special night. So, how's everybody doing, by the way? This is a 2017 Olympia. It could be an historic night. I said, how is everybody doing tonight? So, to these 2 gentlemen, I want to tell you from my heart, and to the athletes who competed tonight, men, women, all incredibly inspiring, incredible. The discipline has been incredible. It's all the things and qualities that we love and admire and respect about you guys. So on behalf of myself, everyone in this room, and everyone around the world, I want to thank you for inspiring us to create the best person we could be daily and always be the hardest workers in the room. love you too. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce the greatest bodybuilder on the planet, the recipient of the 2017 iconic Sandow Trophy, the 7-time Mr. Olympia, Phil the Gift Heath.
As spoken from the mouth of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Move over, Arnold Schwarzenegger. You've got company. Phil Heath is now a 7-time winner of bodybuilding's most prestigious title. He is Mr. Olympia once again, one victory shy of the all-time record. But for tonight, Phil Heath will celebrate number 7 alongside The Rock and the admiration of fans around the world. Big Ramy Mamdouazbieh settles for second. It was a furious charge by the runner-up. Big Ramy deserves all the respect in the world. He is not finished yet. Big Ramy will be back next year to battle for this title. But for now, the night belongs to Phil the Gift Heath. Jim Mannion presents the Sandow Trophy, bodybuilding's most coveted prize, along with a very big $400,000 check. That is AMI CEO David Pecker to Phil's left. And of course, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson made this presentation all the more special by announcing it himself. Phil Heath from Colorado remains the best bodybuilder in the world.
And Dan, again, he was pushed to the limits, rose to the occasion, and there's no doubt in my mind that this contest was won from the back. And that is Phil Heath's strength. And if you don't take him out in his best poses, he is Mr. Olympia 7 times. I didn't hear anybody boo, and The Rock is taking it from here.
Ladies and gentlemen,